Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to Moe's World Podcast. Yep, another baseball podcast. Here we'll talk about baseball like a few friends. We welcome your input to help us improve and make us grow. Today's second episode will also be kind of analytical in discussing the impossible record. The impossible record? Yep. The one record that will just be forgotten as a stat, never to be approached or talked about. What is it? It's the career record of complete games. It is held by Cy Young with a total of 749 complete games for his career. That is insane. Cy Young got the top pitcher award named after him for a reason. So this is an old-time sounding name? You are correct. Cy Young pitched from 1890 at the age of 23 to 1911 at the age. It was a ridiculous, and the stats are insane. Cy Young also had 511 wins. Oh, sure, that's attainable. He threw a career number of 7,356 innings. That's not bad. He's only averaging 334 innings per year. All right, so today let's talk about complete games. Remember that stat. If you have a chance to look up the career of Cy Young on, once again, my favorite baseball site, baseballreference.com. Now, complete game. Do we even care about this record anymore? It seems so abstract and distant, it doesn't seem real. Can you imagine if we will ever see seasons where the pitcher is throwing complete games even as recent as the 2000s? Complete games have changed baseball each decade starting. If you recognize a theme on this podcast about the eras of baseball, you are so correct. Since I have been a Yankee fan through my dad and following baseball from as early as I can remember, I tend to think of records and changes in my lifetime. And as previously stated, I'm an old bastard, so I'm old. We used to wrap our feet in newspapers on the way to school in the snow, and we loved it. Okay, sorry, Billy Crystal. I couldn't resist. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah, complete game. If you are a baseball fan, you recognize this stat is a dinosaur. But I like dinosaurs. So let's break down into a dwindling number of complete games. Now, the 1960s was still prime era in complete games. Teams had not yet embraced the reliever parade. Relievers pitched multiple innings of relief, especially to earn a save, aka. But looking at the list of pitches, we can see the average number of complete games in the 60s was about 22. Juan Marichal led the majors with throwing 197 complete games in the era of the 60s. Remember that figure as we go through the decade. Next up, the 1970s. A pretty high number of complete games, very similar to the 60s. Gaylord Perry was the leader of the decade, throwing 179 complete games. Yes, it was beneficiary to throw a spitball for your arm. 24 complete games was about the number for the league leaders. That's still a big number. The decade of the 70s had some awesome pitchers. Fergie Jenkins, Catfish Hunter, Gaylord Perry, and Phil Niekro. I was kind of surprised at Nolan Ryan's total at this time. I would have guessed he led the league a few times more than once. The league was still operating as the same as the 60s. Still not seeing the parade of pitches to close a game. All right, let's move into the 80s and see if we. Alrighty, the 1980s. They were led by Jack Morris with 133 complete games through the decade. It looks like we're seeing a difference now. Jack Morris threw 67 less complete games in the 80s, as did Juan Marichal in the 60s. A new pattern developed. Well, the A's of the 80s, they had Billy Martin as their manager, and he absolutely killed his pitches, expecting old-time totals of complete games and innings. It is no shock to me that Rick Langford only pitched 11 years, and he retired at 34 with a dead arm. He led Major League Baseball in 1980 with 28 complete games, and in 1981 with 18. Never again did he make as a player with those numbers. I'm not sure, but he may have been the last pitcher to throw 290 innings in a season as well. Now, we definitely see a difference in the averages of complete games, as our leaders now average only 17 games through the 80s. And I would imagine you throw out the highs of Rick Langford, and it'll come down even more so than that. Now, what kind of career numbers are the pitchers retiring with? Steve Carlton played from 1965 to 1985. He retired with 254 career complete games. Bill Niekro, he retired with 245 career complete games, followed by Jim Palmer, who retired in 1984 with 211 career complete games. Rounding out the decade of retirement, Luis Tiant retires with 187 career complete games. We can definitely see a pattern of reduced complete games now. At this point, pitching staffs have changed. Rotations have changed, and the use of middle relievers are drastically used. The 1990s. They were led by Greg Maddux of the Atlanta Braves. Maddux may have been the best pitcher of our recent times. He baffled hitters throughout his career. And Maddux was known as a soft tosser. I don't think he threw over 92, if that. He would probably not even be scouted in today's lame analytical world. That is a shame. Greg Maddux threw 75 complete games in the 80s. That is 58 less than Jack Morris threw in the 80s. Easy to see this stat dwindling now. The average complete games thrown by the leaders were 11. Wow. What kind of career numbers are we seeing with retiring pitchers from the 90s? We talked about Nolan Ryan earlier. Nolan Ryan pitched 1966 to 1993, and he retired with 222 career complete games. Jack Morris, he was active from 1977 to 1994. He retires with 175 career complete games. Dennis Martinez, who pitched mostly with the Baltimore Orioles from 1976 to 1998, he retired with 122 career complete games. That's a massive difference of 100 right there between the retiring pitchers. So that is a mega total. Moving into the 2000s. Let's see who's leading in this era. Roy Halladay. He had a decade number of 47 complete games. Wait, what? 47? Jesus, that is 28 less than the previous decade. It's a whopping 150 less complete games than Juan Marichal threw in the 60s. Even if you barely watch baseball, every fan has noticed the decline in the complete game count. It is rarely a topic of stats, and the bullpen is quite honestly more important than your starting staff. If your starter gets to 7 innings in the 2000s, that's a plus total. Retiring pitchers, complete games through this era? Well, we had Randy Johnson, started in 1988, retired in 2009. He retires with 100 career complete games. Curt Schilling played from 1988 to 2007. He retires with 83 complete games. Tom Glavine, he retired in 2008 with 56 career complete games. And Pedro Martinez, he retired in 2009 with 46 career complete games. Now you can already see a massive difference here from Randy Johnson just to Pedro Martinez just in the 2000s. So this total is a dwindling number. The 2010s. Holy cow, this is some list now. Man, why is it such a long list of complete games in 2010? Because rarely did anybody throw any, and the whole league tied. So the 2010s saw Clayton Kershaw as the decade leader of complete games with 25. That works out the league leaders averaging a total number of 4 complete games throughout the 2010s. Damn, I think we are officially in the bullpen era. So what's retiring pitchers stats look like? Well, we had CC Sabathia retire in 2019. He retired with a career total of 38 career complete games. He pitched from 2001 to 2019. So that's our leaders. I mean, 2010, we had Cliff Lee and Carl Pavano throwing about 7 games. And then over in the National League, we had Roy Halladay throwing 9 games. And it dwindled from there. 2015, Mark Burley and Corey Kluber, they shared the lead in the American League with 4 complete games. Chris Sale threw 6 complete games in 2016. Johnny Cueto, he led the National League with 5. But the 2018 is just typical. I mean, Jose Berrios, Carlos Carrasco, and Corey Kluber and James Paxton, they paced the American League with 2 complete games. And in the National League, we have Mike Foltynewicz from Atlanta, Max Scherzer, Noah Syndergaard, and Jameson Taillon. They had 2, each of them, and they paced the National League. So, so that's what it's become. It's insane. The 2020s. All right. So what are we looking at now in the 2020s? Seriously? League leaders are now averaging 1.6 complete games per the decade. This is only to get less. Looking at these stats makes you just say, why? I think it's kind of obvious now that pitch counts and complete games are correlated. And it's called money. If I'm an owner paying $20 million a year on a pitcher, I want to ask my baseball people, how do I get more years out of them? Pitch them less? So the decades of stats have shown that we now have gone from a 10, 11-man pitching staff to today's staff of 12 to 14. It's really like 12 or 13. 4-man rotations were also the norm. Tommy John back then was only a pitcher, not a procedure. I mean, seriously, the 1970 Orioles had Dave McNally with 24 wins, 16 complete games, with Mike Cuellar with 24 wins and 21 complete games, and Jim Palmer also had 20 wins and 17 complete games. Wow. They used six starting pitchers the entire season. We're never going to see that, obviously. I mean, that is like, you laugh at it now. The average now for pitches used per game is about 4.5 pitches a game. So a complete game is totally out of question in the realm of managing. Where did it used to be as far as part of the equation? I don't know. But it's a huge impact on the game as well. More pitches are entering the game. More pitches entering the game is the reason we now have a pitch count to reduce the length of the game. But we'll tackle that in another episode. This has been a lot of fun. the impossible record of complete games. I hope you enjoyed our second episode of Mo's World, the baseball podcast. Join us weekly. New episodes are released Friday for a 20-minute broadcast or less. Next week's podcast will dive into the realm of, you want to know? Don't avoid me if I tell you. All right. We're going to talk about expansion, and we're going to talk about the catching statistic of framing. Everyone loves to talk about how the catcher is framing the ball. All right. Interesting. We'll talk about that. So, whose world is it? It's Mo's World.